Fantastic. Here's what I'm going to do. For everybody who is listening or watching right now, there is a link to the full challenge report and everything that came out of it. The top 3 challenges, though, that we're going to talk about here today. Number 1 was an internal challenge. Actually, 70% of the answers by C-suite executives were the greatest challenge to creating long-term sustainable growth was ourselves. It was internal, which is very anti-intuitive because we like to talk about what's going on in the market and our competition, the things that are keeping us from doing what we want to do. When the truth of it is, we're our own internal greatest challenge. And we're going to talk a lot about that. Secondly, is that we have a high degree of familiarity with our customers, but we as C-suite executives acknowledge that we don't really have a handle on the voice of the customer and on an ongoing regular basis. And to be a truly obsessed, business, we all say that we're customer first, we're customer obsessed, but to really act on that, do we really have the right kind of programs or just a mentality about bringing the voice of the customer into our decision making and our go-to-market strategies? The third biggest challenge was one that is a hidden challenge. When I say hidden challenge, it's because it wasn't mentioned up front by C-suite executives, but acknowledged as one of the most important things to our growth. And it's about trust. And there is a trust epidemic today. If you look at any of the LinkedIn, Edelman studies, they'll show trust all over Europe, all over the United States, over the world. It's just been on the decline for decades. And in fact, in that same study, over 61% of B2B buyers, and they talked to like 32,000 respondents in this study, they said that 61% of them said that they felt that we as the selling organizations were being intentionally misleading. So there's plenty of other studies out there that have equally as alarming facts, but our brands are trust marks, right? If we don't have trust in our brands, what do we have? And that's the reason why I think the voice of the customer is so important in bringing that forward, because that's the voice that the people that we're selling to, that's their peer community. They trust them at the same level, peer to peer, as we do scientists, right? So those are the big topics that we're going to start out with here today. But I'm going to start with the first one. And Luna, I'm going to ask you the question first off here. Why is internal alignment, we talked about it as the red herring, distracting us from growth?
Well, of course, of course. So, look, I'm absolutely for harmony within the business, but there is a difference between a strong internal alignment and what I see that can be perhaps called intradepartmental micromanagement, which is something that it's very easy to fall into, and it has a tendency to really turn into a huge rabbit hole. And as senior managers, we have to have really the ability to check ourselves and trust in our colleagues. And once you ensure the general direction is aligned, you are kind of good to go. And if you don't do that, like often the most expensive people will spend their valuable time looking inward without really keeping an eye on what's actually out there in the market and be with your clients, because that's where the changes are currently happening. The market right now is incredibly in flux, and we need to be focusing on clients, prospects. We need to be looking outward rather than internally if we know and if we are able to have that close alignment, but not intra-departmental micromanagement. I would generally just summarize it as don't over align, but rather nurture that trust between each other. Trust that your people that you have in your team, your peers, will find the best way and deliver and really focus on its execution. So that's basically my take on this.
So is your point that internal alignment is easier than actually executing on what we all agree on? That's where it falls apart, or I'm trying to understand a little bit more.
Mm. So, no, not really in a way. I think that there are slight differences between being internally aligned and kind of have that intradepartmental micromanagement, because it's very easy when you are discussing how to be aligned internally, to get into like operational things that one person was unable to align with another. There is internal drama. It's energy draining. It takes a lot of time. And if I would be able to take that time and focus it out, I would be able to bring in much more added value to the business, and potentially that even that reason for that micromanagement that's happening or the alignment would not even happen, because you would find out that it's pointless and it's useless. So what I'm saying and locating towards is, you have, I would say that a lot of businesses, there are great teams that want to do great things. They are very smart people. Just ensure that there is a trust between teams, between departments, and there is a general direction. When there is, move your people to it. Focus on execution. Don't overcomplicate things.
Sonia, I love because you've played in multiple departments, you've worked with multiple departments. What's your point of view on this internal alignment as one of our greatest challenges?
I think, as Luna is mentioning, the trusting each other, trusting your peers. I usually say, don't expect that people are there to do bad jobs. People want to do a good job. So trust your peers. So I think that is super important, because that itself will obviously, raise and born trust, and then you get that natural alignment across departments, across teams, across individuals. I think that is super important, to trust and also respect each other's jobs, so to say. But I think it's all about the focus. If you're not super clear on what the company, where you are positioned, where you're heading, and that is all about focus, then you get too much of this internal, mismatch discussions, processes, who does what. I think it's all about focus, and that usually is prioritize what is, three things. What is the most important things? And if you have that, and that takes a lot of a good leadership, a great management, but also a great kind of, guidance, where we're heading, then you can hopefully get that alignment across the whole organization.